Welcome to the SmartKeys podcast. In the modern working world, information overload is, well, it's the default setting, but deep contextual knowledge is really the only currency that matters.
And we're here to help you get there faster. We take complex research and turn it into the strategic shortcut you need to stay ahead.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into something absolutely critical for efficiency and trust.
That's right, transparency culture. We're looking at source material that treats openness not as some kind of nice to have, but as the foundational operating system for your business.
I love that phrase, an operating system.
It's perfect, isn't it? It connects your highest level business goals directly to, real human outcome.
It really is. It
Yeah.
shifts the whole conversation from just ethics to, well, to engineering almost. And our sources are clear. Today's talent isn't happy with just generic updates.
Oh, not at all. They want to see the decision logs, they expect timely communication, and maybe most importantly, they need to understand the why behind any big shifts.
So if you want to navigate the future of work, this kind of openness it's basically table stakes.
It is, because when leaders provide that clear strategy and sometimes the honest bad news, they empower everyone. People get the context immediately, and you minimize all that wasted effort.
So our mission today is to unpack the frameworks and the strategic insights from this material.
And give you practical, low-friction steps to embed this culture in your own organization and just stop the guessing game.
Okay, so let's unpack this operating system then. Where do we start? The primary function seems to be turning vague direction into something concrete.
Exactly. It's about goal alignment and ownership. The sources really hammer this point. Home organizational speed just dies when objectives are fuzzy or when accountability is, spread too thin.
It's that feeling of everyone is responsible, so no one is responsible.
That's it. So the mechanism is total clarity from the top all the way down. Objectives have to be easy to find, and everyone needs to see how their personal and team targets ladder up to the big company goals.
Like seeing your own path up the side of the mountain while also seeing the summit everyone's aiming for.
Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And the piece that so many companies miss isn't the big goal itself. It's the explicit assignment of ownership.
Yeah, the source has this just brilliant quote on this. It says, define who is responsible, how progress is tracked, and where people find answers, then everyone moves faster.
And that's the core loop right there. It's not about blame. People hear ownership and think it's about finding someone to point at when things go wrong.
But it's really about empowerment.
It is. It's about momentum. If a project stalls, you know exactly who the blocker owner is. You don't send a vague email to a whole group.
You go straight to the source and things accelerate. It makes so much sense.
And that speed and clarity, it links directly to the quality of trust in an organization.
Which brings us to the next big framework, the trust diagnostic. You can't just, flip a switch and demand everyone share everything.
No. Leaders have to pair that honest information with really clear norms about how it's used. This is where we get this simple but powerful diagnostic framework from Deloitte.
Okay.
It breaks trust down into 4 parts: capability, reliability, humanity, and openness.
So it's a kind of self-check for leaders.
It's exactly that. You ask, do people believe we're competent? That's capability. Do we actually keep our promises? Reliability. Do we treat people fairly? That's humanity. And then finally, are we transparent? Openness.
That's a powerful diagnostic, but I have to wonder, if you just nail openness, if you share everything, doesn't that sort of make up for weaknesses in the others?
And that's the trap. That's precisely what the source warns against. Think about it. If your leadership team is constantly missing deadlines, that's poor reliability.
Yeah.
No amount of open documents will fix the trust problem.
So openness just reveals your flaws faster.
Exactly. It's an accelerant for trust that's already being built on those other pillars. Without them, it can backfire.
Which gets us to the how of disclosure. The source lays out 3 different approaches.
Right. Proactive, reactive, and forced. Proactive is what you see at high-trust places like Patagonia or Asana. They're sharing strategy docs before anyone even asks.
And reactive is more about just meeting the minimum requirement.
Yep, like pay range transparency laws. It's necessary, but it doesn't really build that deep relational trust. It just checks a box.
But the real danger zone, the one that can just wreck the whole system, is forced openness.
Which is really just surveillance without consent.
Mm-hmm.
And the sources are so clear on this. It's not just unethical, it's bad for business. It creates high turnover, it tanks morale.
And people just start hiding their work because they feel watched.
Which is the opposite of what you want.
Yeah.
This brings up the need for guardrails. It feels a bit counterintuitive, but sometimes restraint is what actually builds trust.
Especially with really sensitive data, I'd imagine.
For sure. Personal health information, or maybe a critical product strategy that can't leak. You have to be explicit about what you share, who sees it, and crucially, why certain things have to remain confidential.
Okay, so we've got the principles down. Let's move from the philosophy to the plumbing, the actual infrastructure, because great principles fail if the channels aren't there.
100%. The whole goal is to stop the endless repetition. You know, that one question that gets asked in DMs a dozen times a week.
Yeah.
So the source suggests a specific channel architecture. First, you set up dedicated #help channels, like #help finance, #help IT. These are the digital front doors for daily operational questions.
So the right experts are in the right place, ready to answer.
Exactly. Then, for the bigger picture stuff, you have regular AMAs, Ask Me Anything forums with leadership.
Combined with live sessions for the really complex topics that need a real back and forth.
Right, but just having the channels isn't enough. You need a standardized triage process, and it's a simple 3-step thing.
What are the steps?
First, acknowledge. A quick reply so the person knows they've been heard. Second, commit. Give a specific time frame, like we'll have an answer by end of day tomorrow.
Okay, that manages expectations.
It totally does. And third, resolve openly. Post the final answer where everyone can see it and learn from it.
And that leads to the behavioral norms, right? The default has to be using those public channels.
It has to be. So colleagues just automatically learn from past conversations. It speeds up everything, especially onboarding new people.
The sources also mentioned discouraging anonymity.
Yeah, unless there's a real safety or whistleblower reason. And if a thread gets too heated, the rule is to take it offline with a few experts, solve it, and then post a public summary of the resolution.
So you maintain transparency without letting the channel become a mess.
You got it.
Okay, so we've covered how the operating system, the diagnostic, the channels. Let's pivot to the why. The measurable performance uplift. What's the real business case here?
It's the eradication of friction. That's the core benefit. When people have clear, timely context, they spend so much less time guessing or, gossiping around the virtual water cooler.
And more time solving actual problems.
More time solving actual problems. It correlates directly to higher engagement, better collaboration, and fewer projects just stalling out.
And there's data to back this up.
Oh, yeah. Groups like Gallup have shown that when employees feel they're in the dark, they disengage fast. But when you provide clear answers, you can actually reverse that trend. Context isn't a perk. It's a prerequisite for productivity.
There's also a strategic angle, right? About owning the narrative.
Absolutely. Sharing big news internally first, or at least at the same time as the public, is so important. It cuts off speculation and lets leaders frame the story before rumors can take hold.
Which means everyone is working from the same sheet of music.
And making better, faster decisions because of it.
Another thing that stood out to me was embedding accountability through documentation. Not just documenting the decision, but the rationale. But doesn't that risk creating a bunch of bureaucracy?
That's the critical balance to strike. The source isn't talking about writing a novel for every choice. It's about a lightweight decision record.
What does that look like?
It's super simple. The final choice, the 2 or 3 other options you seriously considered, the key trade-offs, and why you landed where you did. That little bit of history saves so much time later.
Because you don't have the same debate 6 months down the line.
Exactly. And it preserves knowledge when people change roles. And this puts a huge emphasis on managers, doesn't it? They're the bridge.
They really are. They have to over-communicate and hold those consistent check-ins. It's about shifting away from that once-a-year review.
And toward ongoing feedback. The source cites data from BetterWorks, I think from 2023, showing that employees who are happy with their career development, which is driven by these candid conversations, are just way more engaged.
The manager is the conduit. Okay, last big topic, the tension between new tech like AI and worker privacy. This is a huge one.
It's massive. And tech can be used for incredible good here. Think AI for coaching or safety wearables that genuinely reduce risk. There's an example of an AI-enabled camera system cutting safety incidents by 80% in 3 months.
Wow, that's a huge measurable benefit.
Undeniable. But there's a very fine line between that and coercive surveillance.
Right. And the source is clear that forced monitoring, like tracking keystrokes without consent, nearly doubles employee turnover.
And that cost just blows away any tiny performance gain you might see. So the strategy here has to be bi-directional transparency.
What do you mean by that?
It means it's not just the company watching the worker. The worker shares context too. They share their capacity, their communication needs, risks they see. It's a two-way street.
So an engineer could signal, hey, I'm at 95% capacity this week before they burn out.
Precisely. You get informed consent for any monitoring, you publish the positive outcomes so people see the value, and critically, you have explicit never uses.
These are the non-negotiable red lines.
Non-negotiable, like declaring no punitive keystroke tracking.
Yeah.
That one rule builds immense trust because it shows the tech is for support, not for punishment.
So if you're listening and you're ready to start this, how do you measure success? What's on the scorecard?
You track 4 main areas: trust, engagement, performance, and safety. For trust, you're looking at things like response times in your #help channels. For engagement, survey participation rates. Are people opting in?
And for performance and safety.
Performance is about outcome metrics tied to those public goals we talked about. And safety is incident rates, but also, crucially, the amount of unsolicited feedback you get from workers about risks. If they feel safe enough to share bad news, you know trust is high.
But the metrics are only half the battle. You have to close the loop.
You absolutely have to. You publish the survey results, you show the concrete actions you're taking because of that feedback, and then you show your progress. That proves you were listening.
Okay, so let's make it super practical. For someone listening right now, what's a low-friction way to start? 3 steps they could take this week.
Okay, first, adopt salary range disclosure in job postings. It signals fairness right away. Second, formalize and publish a simple conflict resolution process so people know there's a fair system.
And a third, maybe something on the communication side?
Yeah, make openness the default in a small way. Pick one channel, like #HelpIT, and just formalize that triage process we discussed. Acknowledge, commit, resolve openly. It's a small change that signals huge intent.
It seems like thoughtful transparency really does build trust, and that trust pays off in faster decisions, fewer distractions, just better work.
But you have to choose it. If you're not actively choosing transparency as your operating system, you are by default choosing confusion.
And the cost of that confusion is just immense. It eats up time, energy, everything.
Exactly. But when you build this culture deliberately, you get compounding trust. And that is the most reliable predictor of long-term success.
Well, we appreciate you taking this deep dive with us into strategic communication and culture. Thanks for joining us on the SmartKeys podcast.
If you want to dive deeper into that Deloitte framework, the channel architecture, and all the steps we talked about, the full source article is linked right there in our show notes.
Be sure to subscribe for more insights on the future of work and productivity. Until next time, keep upgrading your platform.